Med Global volunteer and trauma surgeon Dr. Feroz Sidwa is there in Gaza at Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis for more on what he's seeing there. Dr. Sidwa, thanks so much for coming on. I know you've been volunteering there, and in a recent interview, you said that it's utter carnage. What have you been seeing? What's it like there right now?
Yeah, on yesterday, early in the morning here, about 2:30 a.m., the door to our living quarters was blown open, smashed against the cabinet behind it. That was what woke me up and alerted me that the bombing campaign had restarted. And so we went, me and the other trauma surgeons, and really all the volunteer doctors, even though they're not emergency personnel, they went down to the emergency room to receive this mass casualty event. The Palestinian surgeons and nurses actually really ran a good mass casualty system. I was very impressed by it, actually. But there's just no way that any group of any hospital can deal with an influx of hundreds of patients over the course of 30 minutes, half of whom are severely injured children. And that's what we got. The first thing I did was actually I didn't pronounce her dead. There was about a 3 or 4 year old girl with a bunch of shrapnel wounds all over her face and her head. She couldn't breathe properly, and her pulse was thready, and she was going to die, and there was nothing we could do about it. So I had to just tell her dad that there was nothing we could do. She's going to die. Um, Over the course of the next 10 or 12 hours, I think I performed 10 operations on people. Um, I just completed a second stage operation right now. That's why I was a little late. Sorry about that. And yeah, no, it's just carnage. I mean, when you drop bombs on tents, this is what's going to happen, especially when they're full of half a population that's half children.
Humanitarian aid has been blocked from entering Gaza since earlier this month. How is that impacting your ability to treat people?
In multiple ways. One is that the hospital, I don't believe, is receiving resupply. And actually, just right there is the old hospital warehouse, which has been burned. The Israelis burned it when they occupied the hospital in February and March, and so that doesn't, there's no warehouse there anymore. So the hospital can't even build up a kind of a reserve of needed supplies. So if we have another one or two mass casualty events like this, I'm pretty sure we'll be out of surgical material to work with. But beyond that, this population had been starved for 15 months. Certainly not every single person was starving to death, but the population as a whole was losing weight, didn't have enough protein intake, or not even an adequate, just a normal amount of protein. I've eaten meat once since I've been here, and that's not to complain. It's just to point out that I'm eating better than anybody else in this territory. I have money. But there's just no meat available. Eggs are more than $1 each in the market right outside the hospital, and so that means that people are coming in hungry, thirsty. There's no clean water anymore because Israel cut the water and electric supply, so the desalination plants can't even work. And that leads to the problems with human health that you can imagine. Kids have gastroenteritis all the time. We actually had a woman's heart stop in the ICU because her gastroenteritis was so bad that we couldn't keep up with her fluid requirements. I know it's an utter disaster, and it's having the expected consequences.
And I understand you've been to Gaza a few times now. How do you feel the situation there is evolving?
Yeah, this is my second time. I was in Gaza European Hospital, which is on the eastern side of this city, Khan Yunis, almost exactly a year ago now. And the situation when I got here, the bombs weren't falling. That was better. But the fact of the matter is the blockade was still in place. Like you said, on March 2nd, the Israelis decided not just that the regular blockade, which means that Israel has to decide every single thing that goes in and out of Gaza, that wasn't going to be in place, but literally nothing was going to go in or out of Gaza. There's 2 million people here. Half of them are children. This is they can't survive in a place where all the farmland has been destroyed, the sewage system has been destroyed, the water sanitation infrastructure has been destroyed, most of the housing has been destroyed. Like how does anybody expect them to live? This is completely crazy. The situation, so but really nothing much has changed except for that bombs stopped falling out of the sky, which is good. But people were still hungry, they were still thirsty, they were still unhoused, they were still very sick and dying of the problems that have been created for them. The first operation I did here was for a young man, maybe 20, 25 years old, something like that. He was crawling through the ruins of his old apartment building to try and find his dead father's body from an explosion that happened 3 or 4 months ago. Oh, the one of the walls collapsed on him and it tore his kidney off of his aorta. So thankfully he lived. He'll do fine. But this is the kind of thing that people are dealing with here. It's a disaster.
How are people there talking to you about the ceasefire being broken? Do they blame Hamas? Are they supportive of Hamas? Do they feel hopeful that they can reach a deal again? How are people there feeling right now?
Yeah, Palestinians honestly don't talk much about politics in terms of supporting this or that. They usually just talk about who they think is right or wrong. The Palestinians, most of them that at least that I interact with, which is admittedly the more educated people, physicians and nurses, things like that, most of them don't find Hamas's methods to be something that they can tolerate. Again, they're doctors and nurses. They're kind of horrified by the idea of taking hostages or machine gunning kids at a music festival, but nevertheless, they understand where it's coming from. All of these people have lived under siege, not since October 7th of 2023, but since about 2005. Most of the people in this territory are under the age of 18, and they have never known anything other than the harshest phase of the occupation of Gaza. That's that's not hard to understand where the rage is coming from. And it's not that hard to understand that Israel broke the ceasefire. It's not hard to see who's to blame for it, and it has nothing to do with Hamas not agreeing to give up the hostages. Hamas has already agreed to give up the hostages. That's what the ceasefire deal was that Israel signed. They immediately announced that they wouldn't adhere to it after they signed it, and now they're not adhering to it. There's no great surprise.
All right, Med Global volunteer, trauma surgeon, Dr. Feroz Sidwa in Gaza. We appreciate your time today. Thank you. Stay safe.